All right, so let's dive into this AI and copyright thing, huh? Seems like a lot of you are really interested in this, sending in all these legal documents and research and everything. Clearly, you want to know what's up, like what are the rules when algorithms start making art or music or even like copying voices, right? So we've got these two U.S. Copyright Office reports, Digital Replicas and Copyrightability. Both came out July 2024, and well, these are the official word, right? This is how the government's trying to wrap its head around all this AI content that's exploding everywhere.
Yeah, these reports are pretty fascinating. It's like watching the legal system try to catch up with something that's moving way too fast. And at the heart of it all is like this fundamental copyright question, right? What does original even mean anymore when an AI is pulling from stuff that already exists?
Exactly. And you know what really blew my mind? That song went super viral, sounded exactly like Drake in The Weeknd, remember? Turned out it was all AI, caused a
Wow.
huge uproar, right?
Right.
That whole thing just sums up why this is such a big deal right now.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the Copyright Office, they actually use that exact example to launch into this whole discussion of digital replicas. And they're not talking about just like simple copies here. We're talking AI that can make these crazy realistic fakes, voices, faces, even like whole artistic styles. And this isn't some sci-fi future stuff. This is happening right now.
And it's not just music either, right? The report even talks about like both sides of this, the good and the bad. Like on the one hand, you've got digital replicas that could be used for accessibility stuff, like, giving a voice to someone who's lost theirs, or even like bringing back a deceased artist for a performance.
Right, but then there's the potential for harm, and it's big. Think about revenge porn or election manipulation or scams that sound just like someone you love. I mean, this technology is powerful, and the reports are kind of like a wake-up call. These are real risks.
So where does copyright law even fit into all of this? Because, I mean, a photo, that's protected. But my face, if an AI recreates it, maybe not so much.
That's the problem, right? The report makes it very clear. Copyright law as it stands. It's struggling. It's built to protect original works. But a person's identity, like your face, your voice, that's not really a work in the traditional sense.
It's like the Wild West out there, huh? Especially since state laws are all over the place.
Yeah.
The report even talks about this thing called right of publicity. Some states use it to protect celebrities, but it's all different depending on where you are.
Okay.
And then you've got those federal laws like the FTC Act or the Lanham Act, but those are more for like commercial stuff, right? Deceptive advertising, things like that. So what's the answer? Do we need whole new laws just for AI?
Seems like that's what the Copyright Office is suggesting, yeah. They're saying these old laws, it's like trying to patch up a spaceship with duct tape. Might work for a little bit, but it's not a real fix.
Yeah.
And that's where this other report, the copyrightability one, gets really interesting.
Okay, yeah, let's break that down. Because if AI is just creating things based on what's already out there, is it ever really original? Does that mean anything an AI makes can't be copyrighted?
Well, the report says that no court has ever said, like, officially recognized copyright for something made entirely by, something that's not human. They talk about some pretty wild cases like that monkey selfie one, you remember? Monkey grabs a camera, snaps a photo. Court said, nope, monkey can't own the copyright, not human.
So it all comes down to the human element. But what about all those people using, like, text prompts to create AI art? Where's the human creativity in that? Seems like a gray area, right?
Oh, yeah, big time. And the report spends a good chunk of time on that. I mean, people put a lot of thought into these prompts, right? Some are super specific, like dictating a style or even using copyrighted images as inspiration. But what the Copyright Office seems to be saying is the prompt alone, not enough for copyright.
Hold on. So even if I spend hours coming up with this perfect prompt, it's the AI that gets the credit. That doesn't seem quite fair, does it?
They compare it to like commissioning an artist. You might give them ideas, but the artists, they're the ones making the creative choices. So the prompt, it guides the AI, but it's not seen as the final expression,
Yeah. But what about those super detailed prompts, especially for visual art? Surely the report addresses that, right?
They do acknowledge that, yeah. There might be cases where a prompt is so specific that it does contribute to copyrightability, but the bottom line is it's a blurry line, and as AI gets more advanced, the law is going to have to keep reevaluating what counts as, original authorship.
So we've got AI that can potentially copy anyone's voice, anyone's image, and on top of that, we're not even sure if the stuff it makes can be copyrighted. What does that even mean for artists, for musicians, for any kind of creator, really?
And that's where this artistic style issue comes in. The report actually quotes an artist who describes it as like competing with a distorted version of themselves. Imagine AI creating something that looks exactly like your art, but you have no legal recourse because copyright law doesn't really cover style as a separate thing.
So even if an AI can make a masterpiece, who actually owns that masterpiece is still a big question mark. This is getting complicated.
And it's going to get even more complicated. Because the report isn't just about laying out the problems, they also talk about the Copyright Office's recommendations for new laws. That's where things get really interesting.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. We got to dive into those recommendations next time.
This whole world of AI and copyright is a real eye-opener.
Yeah, so the Copyright Office, they don't mess around. They just come right out and say it. We need a whole new, federal right, something specifically to protect people from these unauthorized digital replicas. They say just tweaking the old laws isn't enough. We need something totally new to deal with this.
Whoa, that's a pretty big statement, huh? A whole new legal right just for this. I mean, that really shows how seriously they're taking this whole thing. But who exactly would this protect? Everyone.
Yeah, the report's very clear about that. It shouldn't just be for, celebrities or public figures. Anyone can be vulnerable. I mean, anyone's voice or image can be used for bad stuff, not just famous people. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if anyone can be a victim of, a deep fake or whatever, then the law should protect everyone the same, right? But how long would this protection last? Could someone control my digital likeness even after I'm, gone? That seems kind of creepy.
Yeah, that's one of the trickier parts. And the report, it does acknowledge that there are arguments on both sides. Like some people think that heirs should have control, especially if there's, money to be made from a deceased person's image or a voice. But the office, they ultimately recommend against that. No postmortem protection for this new right.
So they're drawing a line, huh? Saying this is about protecting living people from harm, not about, controlling someone's legacy after they're gone. Okay, but what exactly would this new right actually make illegal? What can't I do with someone's digital replica?
Well, the report focuses mainly on distribution, like sharing it, making it available,
Yeah.
Just creating it on its own wouldn't necessarily be against the law.
So, I could play around with AI and make a replica of, I don't know, my favorite actor or something, but I couldn't post it online or use it for, a commercial.
Exactly. And they really emphasize that this shouldn't just be about commercial use. The harms, they can be really personal and damaging, even if no money's involved. Think about, someone using your replica to spread lies about you online or to harass you.
That's a good point. But I can see how this could get tricky with, free speech and all that. Wouldn't banning certain uses of these replicas go against the First Amendment?
They addressed that head on, yeah. They acknowledged the First Amendment and the need to balance it with, protecting individuals. It's a tough one, for sure.
So how do they propose we walk that tightrope?
Well, they look at a few different approaches, like specific exemptions for things like news reporting, parody, or artistic works that use replicas. They seem to prefer a system where courts would, consider each case individually.
So not a total ban, but more like a judgment call based on the situation. What kind of factors would they look at?
Things like whether it's for profit or not, how relevant the replica is to the purpose, is it meant to deceive, and what kind of harm it could cause.
Sounds like they're trying to create something that's both protective and flexible.
Yeah.
Allow for legitimate uses while still, cracking down on the harmful stuff.
Exactly. They also recommend something like a notice and takedown system, like we have for copyright infringement online. So if you find your replica being shared without your permission, you could ask the platform to take it down.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. Put some of the responsibility on those platforms where these replicas are, often shared.
And they even suggest something called a safe harbor provision to protect platforms from liability as long as they're acting in good faith to remove the stuff that's infringing. Basically, it encourages them to take these concerns seriously.
So, sounds like they're really trying to cover all the bases. But what happens if someone actually does violate this new right? What are the consequences?
They suggest a mix of things: monetary damages, injunctions, and even what they call statutory damages for cases where it's hard to prove, financial harm.
Statutory damages, that's like a set amount you can claim, even without showing you lost money, right?
Yeah.
Seems fair, especially if someone's using your replica for, personal attacks or harassment.
Yeah, the idea is to make sure everyone can access legal recourse no matter their financial situation.
Makes sense. The report also mentions, criminal penalties. Are they talking about jail time for using someone's digital replica?
They bring it up, yeah, especially for stuff like non-consensual intimate material or things that are intentionally deceptive and could cause, serious harm. Think deepfake porn or using someone's replica to commit fraud.
So in certain situations, this could be a pretty serious crime. I mean,
Oh,
it
yeah.
really shows how high the stakes are with this technology.
No doubt. And they don't really take a firm stance on whether criminal penalties should be a thing across the board, but they do acknowledge it's a big issue that needs, careful thought.
We've covered a lot here. This new right, if it actually becomes law, it could really change how we think about like identity and protection online. It's almost like a whole new area of law is opening up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this is just the federal level. The report also talks about how this would all work with existing state laws.
Wait, so even if this federal right becomes law, states could still have their own laws on top of it. That seems like it could get pretty messy.
It could, yeah. But the report recommends that the federal law set like a minimum standard of protection. States could offer stronger protection if they want to. It's about finding that balance between federal oversight and state autonomy.
Okay, so the federal law would be like a safety net, making sure everyone has at least a basic level of protection, but states could go further if they choose to. What about how this new right would work with, like, existing copyright law? That's got to get pretty technical.
Well, there's this specific section in copyright law, section 114B, that deals with like imitations or sound-alikes in sound recordings. And some people were worried that this might clash with, state laws protecting voices or even this proposed new federal right.
So there's a potential conflict there.
The Copyright Office, they argue that they can actually coexist. They say that section 114B, it's about protecting copyright in the original recording, not about giving someone the right to, like, steal someone else's voice.
So even if someone could make, like, a sound-alike song that's okay under copyright law, they could still get in trouble under this new right if they use someone's voice without permission.
That's their position, yeah. They even recommend that Congress clarifies this in the new law just to avoid any confusion. They're really trying to anticipate any potential issues and address them, proactively.
Seems like they've really thought this through. I mean, they're navigating a pretty complex intersection of, like, technology, law, and ethics here.
For sure. The Copyright Office's report, it's really a call to action for lawmakers, urging them to take these challenges seriously and actually create laws that protect people in this, rapidly changing digital world.
Okay, well, after this deep dive into the Copyright Office's reports, it's pretty clear that we're in uncharted territory here. AI is changing everything, from how we think about our own identities to artistic expression, and the law is trying to keep up.
And it's not just about the law either. It's about having these open conversations and making informed choices about how we want to, interact with this technology.
So what does all this mean for, like, the average person listening right now? What can they do to protect themselves in this, like, brave new world of AI-generated content?
That's what we'll explore in the last part of our conversation. We'll talk about some practical steps you can take and how to stay ahead of the curve in this, rapidly changing landscape.
All right, so we spent a lot of time in the weeds here with all this AI and copyright stuff, and I'm sure some of you are thinking like, okay, but what can I actually do about it? It all feels a bit, overwhelming.
Yeah, it's true. Things are changing fast, but for now, just being aware of the situation, that's your best defense. One of the big takeaways from these reports is, understanding what the current laws can and can't do. Like copyright, it doesn't protect your face or your voice in the same way it protects a photo you took or a song you wrote.
That's kind of crazy to think about. So even though we see all this stuff online, it doesn't mean AI can just, like, grab it and use it without any consequences.
Right. And you got to be careful about any contracts or agreements that involve, using your digital likeness.
Yeah.
The report talks a lot about informed consent, especially because this tech is so new, we don't even know what the long-term effects will be.
So read the fine print, right? Good advice in general, I guess. But beyond the legal stuff, what about just navigating this world where anything could be fake? I mean, how do we even know what's real anymore?
Yeah, that's where being a little skeptical comes in. Don't just believe everything you see or hear, especially if it seems, too crazy or too good to be true. We need to get better at this, like, digital literacy thing, where questioning and verifying are just automatic.
So, like, if I see a video of some politician saying something wild, maybe I should just hit share right away.
Yeah.
Better do some fact checking first, right?
Exactly.
And those scam calls that sound just like your grandma, That's where this tech gets really scary.
Yeah.
If something feels wrong, trust your instincts.
It's almost like we have to treat everything online as suspicious until proven otherwise. That's a whole new way of thinking.
It is a shift, yeah. But it's super important these days. And beyond just protecting yourself, we got to be part of the bigger conversation about how this tech is being used, you know?
So what can we do? Just, complain about deepfakes on Twitter? Nah, there's more to it than that. Support organizations that are pushing for responsible AI development. Reach out to your lawmakers and tell them what you think. The more people speak up, the more pressure there is to create, ethical and legal frameworks that actually protect everyone.
It really feels like we're at a crossroads here. This technology, it's incredibly powerful, and it's up to us to decide how it gets used.
That's the challenge and the opportunity, right?
Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground today. From copyright law to digital replicas to, the future of identity itself. Any last thoughts you want to leave us with?
If an AI can perfectly copy your voice, your face, your art, what does it even mean to be human in this digital age? It's a question we all got to ask ourselves. Keep thinking, stay curious, and let's figure this out together.
And on that note, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into AI and copyright. Until next time, stay informed and stay safe out there.